So let's just go through some of the questions that have been thrown in over the last couple of weeks. So what resources will music tech student provide for these areas of study? Now, the first one that we are going to provide is obviously going to be those cards that I've just shown you. We're going to adapt them ever so slightly so that they do become checklists. And I suspect we'll kind of think about this as threefold. So we'll probably have 3 checklists for each area, for each topic, where you can say, okay, the first one is I've done it once. The second one is I've done it a few times and I feel confident. And then the third one would be mastered, okay? So the idea being is that if you do it once, that's generally not enough to kind of consolidate that information. But after you can tick off all 3 from that same topic or from that same skill, then obviously you've got that in the bag and you're good to go. We will also be providing tutorials for these area studies. That will take quite a bit of time, but we are going to go through and we are going to create tutorials, both diagrammic based tutorials and probably video tutorials as well, just to kind of consolidate some of this information. That will take a bit of time, but that's the idea. Or how does the AS differ from the full A level? Now, as shown you in that example, anything that was highlighted yellow, both as text and as full blocks, that's not necessarily applicable to the AS. I wouldn't shy away from teaching some of that stuff, but just be very aware it's less likely to come up. The main area where the AS differs is things like you don't need multi microphones recording, so you will only ever be asked about singular microphones. That's one of the biggest areas that it comes up actually. Things about numeracy as well, that was a big one, so they won't need to go into kind of the calculations and the diagrams of how things are put together as well, as much as you would get in the full A level. And there are a few others. You will just have to need to read through that checklist and just make sure you understand. That really only becomes a problem if you are teaching the first year of the AS, the AS and the first year of the A level together. Okay, how will you be delivering these areas of study? Now, if you think component 1, that will be very much practical. So we will set up some tasks where the students have to set up a live room and they have to patch things in. So we'll be doing that very practically, but they'll also need to understand why we're doing it. So that will be delivered very much in the practical sense. We're also going to be giving the students listening tests or listening kind of worksheets to go through and answer questions about production techniques. There will be worksheets as well that they're going to kind of need to consolidate, but I think the biggest delivery will, and I mean even homeworks as well, making sure you give them homeworks where they have to fill in. The biggest area of making sure that they've gone through each of these processes is going to be the tick sheet, really, just making sure that they can tick off each of these elements, so they can feel confident that actually my teacher's done it with me, I've done it by myself, and now I understand what's going on. I'm teaching AS and the first year of A level together. Do you have a strategy for this? Is this even going to be possible? It will be possible. I think if you are put in that sticky situation, I would probably make my first year of the A levels go through the whole process. Maybe not take the unit 3 and 4 exams at the end, but go through the process. That could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. If they did the coursework and they think to themselves, actually, I don't want to carry this on next year, you give yourself an opportunity where they can take the exam and be done with it. However, if you go down that route, you might be in fear of actually not teaching them the proper skills because your time is so divided. The strategies in place, it would be a lot more difficult. You'd have to set up lots more kind of tasks for them to do independently, I guess, after the first sort of term. Because the AS would probably take priority going into getting that coursework done, I suspect. Oh, that's a tough one. I'll try and answer that a little bit better, but that is a tough one. Do you have any listening tests for these styles? Yes, we do. We have them from the last specification. We will need to revamp them, but they certainly are 10 that you can get going on. But the problem with the ones we've got for the last specification is they're focused on the artist and performance skills and things that aren't necessarily relevant now. Whereas now we need to start fully focusing on production techniques and emerging technologies and technologies that are being used in them. So although they are relevant, they're probably not as relevant as they were in the last spec, so we will need to revamp them. We do have 7 moving on to 10 production tasks. So if you look at our production worksheets, they will completely still be relevant to the component 4. So that's good. So we can still use those ones, but we will need to kind of redevelop our listening, analysing worksheets. How much depth do you need to go into for the history and development of music tech? Once again, it was in the same as the last slide, it was just those 5 elements, so it's no way near as in depth. You will need to go into more depth on signal paths and processing, because that does come up as one big essay question. So making sure your students understand that will be just as important as understanding the history and development now. But there are only those five topics that we're pulling from. Yeah, this is where my idea of it's not really my idea, it's this guy's idea, of giving the students a tick sheet comes up. So it says here, should I give my students a tick sheet for when they have completed each task in the area of study? And I thought that was such a good idea. That's why we've kind of gone down this route of those cards, because actually it makes the most amount of sense. With all the best will in the world, if you don't have a tick sheet, that you are in fear of missing something. And you certainly don't want any comeback from the students saying, oh, so you haven't gone through that with me, so you haven't done that. You want to be in a position where you say, right, we've got the tick sheet, come on, we just need to work through this now. So yeah, that's why we've gone down that route, and I think that was a fantastic question, and thanks for that. That's given us some inspiration. How are you going to track your students' progress with these topics? And once again, having the 3 columns in the tick sheet for I've done it once, I've done it a few times and I'm confident, and then I've mastered, is going to be a very good way of tracking that. But you may also, look at their development on more practical tasks as well. Make sure they are completing the practical tasks that you set, making sure that, that they are supplying adequate answers and their development is progressing nicely. This next course, this particular specification is going to be all about, keep feeding in examples, keep making them do the practical tasks and feeding back to them how they can improve it. Unlike the last one where it was very much, right, let's get the coursework done because there's so much of it, you will be expected, the level of skills now will be expected to be a lot higher. Okay, so once again, thanks for joining us. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to post them or give us a contact on musictechstudent.co.uk. And also next week next session we are looking at component 1, and then we'll also be doing a session on component 2, 3 and 4. So we've still got loads more to come, loads more stuff to go through. If you do have any questions about the areas of studies, or if I went too fast, please let me know and I'll try and break them down a bit more. For this particular session, it was always going to be difficult as the lists are extensive. Thanks again and take care, and I'll see you in the next one.